got to talk Patriots Titans Sunday. Maybe the worst football game of the season if we're looking on paper in terms of two teams. 1-6 versus 2-6. Horrific football being played on both sides. So we're gonna get into it a little bit. I want to hear your main thoughts, just kind of going into the game. Who do you have your eye on? Who do you think might struggle in a game where they're going down into Nashville? What do you got, Sean?
Yeah, I think for the Patriots, as a lot of these games have been, it's a lot is going to be put on their run game because it's just, and that's not a great thing. That's not a good thing when you're going into Tennessee because Tennessee, they're in they're in the position they're at, similar to New England. But their defensive front is legit. Jeffrey Simmons, obviously leads that pack, and just kind of doing a few things on looking at the box scores and stuff. And so they've allowed the 6th fewest yards to running backs, 4 yards a carry. They've only allowed 5 rushing touchdowns to running backs this season. 3rd fewest passing yards to running backs as well. So, Ramondre Stevenson and Antonio Gibson, kind of getting involved in the passing game, which we've seen a decent amount of, probably as much as you would have expected after Alex Van Pelt wanted them to be the, I think it was the best screen team in the league this preseason. So definitely haven't seen that. But, it's not a great matchup. And the Patriots, I think a lot was made against the Jets in terms of they ran the ball when they needed to and all that sort of thing. And they did, to their credit, they did. They got the 1 yard that they needed to win the game at the end. But it really wasn't a stellar performance from the rushing tandem of Ramondre Stevenson and Antonio Gibson. 25 rushes for 55 yards among running backs. So the running backs averaged 2.2 yards a carry.
Yeah,
obviously, those numbers looked a lot better in the box score because they took into Drake May scrambles and a lot of Drake May scrambles and even the Jacoby Brissett scramble at the end of the game too. So, but outside of what the quarterbacks offered them, the running game averaged 2 yards a carry. So it's just, I think it's really going to come down to that. I think the passing defense for Tennessee has been good, but maybe a little overrated. But just based on what we've seen from Patriots receivers, I still think that's a strength. I think that's an edge for Tennessee is maybe the way to put it. So I think a lot is going to be put on the run game, and I'm just not exactly sure how it's going to stack up.
Yeah, I think our producer Ethan put together some pretty solid numbers. You say maybe not what we thought they are. I'll be stronger. Fraudulent. I didn't know, but looking at these numbers, league best 151 yards per game allowed by the Titans passing defense. 5.2 yards per pass allowed, 11 touchdowns, which is 13th in the NFL. You would think this is a good, if not really good, passing defense. But let's look at who they've faced. Week 1, Bears passing offense that just hadn't put anything together. Rookie quarterback, a bunch of new receivers. They were still figuring it out. Then the Jets, who stink. The Dolphins didn't have Tua. Josh Allen killed them 2 weeks ago. 323 passing yards. He was Josh Allen. Kicked their ass. Last week, Jared Goff only had 85 yards. Only needed that because Detroit is just running the ball down everybody's throat and really had their way with Tennessee. So you look at the numbers, and they're not bad. I think there's an opportunity, and maybe not with the Patriots, but there's an opportunity for somebody to kill this team. So maybe not this week. But moving forward, that's something I think those numbers are going to spike. They're going to be up over 200 in no time in terms of yards allowed per game. If not next week, the week after. This passing defense is bad. So the Patriots might be able to take a little bit of advantage with that. If Drake May plays, that's another thing that we'll get into, but who knows if he's going to be playing. If he does, I would love to see them throw out, give him a couple opportunities to go deep. Kayshon Boutte, if you want Javon Baker to play, maybe throw one to him and see what he can do. Get after this pass defense because I think there's more opportunity there than there is against the rush defense. One thing I wanted to get your thoughts on, Sean. You were on the Calvin Ridley beat all offseason. You wanted him in New England. I think Sean wrote 487 stories about Calvin Ridley from March to September. Yep. How do you see them defending him? Do you think they can? And how big of a part of this passing offense is he? Because he's kind of the whole thing, right?
Yeah, I would agree. And he's been pretty quiet really up until last week. And
Yeah.
it was almost funny, like, you gave him so many targets and everything like that. And it was actually kind of after he called out the team for not targeting him early in the games. And then
it's always a good thing.
Yeah. And then, they gave him a ton of targets just last week, got him involved really early. But it was almost, to me, I was almost looking at it, I'm like, is this their way of trying to up Calvin Ridley's trade stock? Like, are they trying to do this right before the deadline and and maybe move on from him? But he is a whole passing offense. I would say I think the Patriots can cover him. I mean, they've done a really good job. Christian Gonzalez, obviously, the premier corner on their team, and he's done a really good job against a lot of the top receivers in the league. So I think if there's like one, I think the most glaring edge that the Patriots have is their pass defense against Tennessee's passing offense, and a lot of that is Gonzalez, Marcus Jones, Jonathan Jones. It's good, and the only passing offense that is worse than Tennessee is the Patriots. So if there's anything good to be said about, if there's anything good to be said, that might be one thing, and so. We'll kind of see how they're able to exploit that. If they're able to get after the passer and the passer that Tennessee has, it's a little uncertain at this point. But regardless who is there, whether it's Will Levis or Mason Rudolph, I wouldn't call either of them. It's not a spooky situation. We'll go with that today. So I would. That's right. So I think the Patriots, when it comes to defending the pass like that, I think they're in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, that's another huge thing that I have in the back of my mind. Neither team really knows who the other team's quarterback is going to be on Sunday. Drake May, in concussion protocol still, he's progressing well. As of Thursday, limited participant in practice, which is phase 3/4 of the 5-step program. So we'll see. That we have a long way to go till Sunday. I don't think we will know until it'll be a true game time decision. And then in Tennessee, with these two quarterbacks, it kind of doesn't matter. Like, they both stink. Will Levis, 1-4, started the first few games, 58.9% completion percentage, 2 touchdowns, 3 picks.
Gross.
He's been producing some all-time memes, though, like all-pro first-team memer, Will Levis. And then Mason Rudolph, since he's come in, 66.4% completion percentage, so he's a little bit better. 5 touchdowns, 7 picks. What are we doing? I actually flipped those. Let me flip the numbers. 7 picks for Levis, but 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions for Rudolph. Again, not good. Okay. And I think these numbers and these two quarterbacks produced an all-time quote from Gerard Mayo on Wednesday. I'm going to read it out because I think it's hilarious. A little bit of uncertainty at the quarterback spot, which is always difficult to prepare for teams that have that uncertainty at the quarterback spot. They have 2 different skill sets, and saying that, they've both won games in this league. That's it. Then he talked about every other aspect of the team. He's kind of drawn a little bit from the Bill Belichick way of thinking. Bill used to say on Wednesdays and Fridays when he would talk about the other team, he can make all the throws. And that's how you knew he did not respect the other quarterback. He can make all the throws. He's not going to, but theoretically he can. I think this was Gerard Mayo's way of saying, these guys can make all the throws. They've won games in this league. Yeah, so is every other quarterback who's ever started more than 5 games in the NFL. Just had nothing for him. He was, talking all about Jeffrey Simmons and the 2-headed monster running back game. He was really impressed by the running backs. T'Vondre Sweat, just like everybody on the roster, he had nice things to say. The quarterbacks, they've won games. So I don't think they respect either one of these guys at all. I don't think they care who they're playing against. And I would expect, I've been saying it for weeks, months really, because we're that far into the season. One of the Patriots going to get aggressive. Let DeMarcus Covington get after these quarterbacks. Yeah. Last week they kind of did. They were pretty early in the game against New York, very calculated in their rush. They didn't want to let Rodgers scramble. And then after the game, we found out halfway through the second quarter, they were like, this guy can't run. Let's just get after him. Mm-hmm. And that really slowed down New York's offense. I think this week they're just going to go for it. Levis is an athlete, so if he does play, you got to be a little bit careful about that. But if you get pressure on him, he's going to make a mistake. If you get pressure on Mason Rudolph, he's going to make a mistake. This guy's a career backup. He's not good enough to start games on a regular basis. So it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. I would love to see the Patriots get after these two guys and win the game that way. We've seen them win the game running the hell out of the ball in Cincinnati. And then they kind of just found a way to win last week. They were less disastrous than the Jets. I want to see them win a game defensively, which is what we thought that was going to be their calling card coming into the season. Get after these two guys and make some plays and really dominate the game. I think there's an opportunity this week, if not for the rest of the season, for the Patriots to dominate a football game.
Yeah, and just to go back to your point, Will Levis is 4-10, so he technically has won 4 games.
Right.
He's also lost 10 of them.
He's won games?
In a rather small sample size, double-digit wins. But yeah, I agree, and I think again, it's one of those things. It all starts up front for the Patriots. If they can stop the run, it was better against the Jets than it had been in recent weeks. They didn't give up 180, 190, whatever they were giving up. I think it was like 111 or something last week, but so they weren't gashed as much, but they still gave up 4 yards a carry. So it's not like it was a stellar performance either. And we'll see how they're able to kind of corral, I guess maybe is the word, Tony Pollard and the running game. And if they can do that, and if they can get Tennessee in, those sorts of, third and medium, third and long situations, then you give yourself the chance to get after, 2 quarterbacks who wouldn't be good if you get after them.
All right. Before we get out of here, give me your pick, Sean. I want a score prediction as well. What do we got?
I'm going, so a lot of this, I think a decent amount hedges on Drake May playing or not.
Right.
I think if Drake May plays, I think they win, let's call it by 10. Okay. I think if Jacoby Brissett plays, I think they win by 6. So let's call it a 23-17.
I got 23-9 Patriots. I think they're going to kill them. The Titans kind of stink. I have zero respect for these two quarterbacks. Gerard Mayo has zero respect for these two quarterbacks. So it's an opportunity. We won't get too many more for the rest of this season, but the Patriots should win this football game. Sean and I both have W's in the win column. 3-6, not terrible. Well on their way to surpassing last year's win total. So for all the people who were freaking out about Gerard Mayo, relax. It's been 2 months.